I was on the starboard side, and of course we were hit on the port side, see, so I was clear across.
Had you reached your battle station by the time this torpedo hit?
Oh no, we got 2 hits before I got down my station.
What effect did it have on you and on the ship, these hits?
Well, the ship kind of jumped out of the water, you know, and the whole thing shook. And like I said, I thought it was our turrets firing, because that was about the same effect that the turrets.
Can you give us some idea as to the magnitude of the shaking of the ship? Did it knock you off your feet, for example?
Oh yeah, it's just like picking it up 10 feet and dropping it back down.
So you were knocked down?
Yeah, you know, just to the deck.
What happened next?
Well, you were trained to go to your battle station, and I went. There was 5 of us down in there, and by that time you could see it was listing. And we got another hit, and it knocked all the lights out. I mean, just shattered them. On that last hit, when it got black, one of the fellows had a cigarette lighter, and I said, it's time to get the hell out of here. And we started up the hatch, and about that time, we were all 5 of us right together going up, and it was just like a waterfall hit us. And we didn't know at the time, but that's about the time the ship turned over.
You couldn't sense, could you sense that the ship was turning?
No, no, you're just going up this hatch and just like in a waterfall. And there's only 2 of us come back out. The other 3 evidently were panicked and drowned when they, and of course you make for the top, you know, you expect to hit maybe an overhead or something, but we come out. And
how long were you in darkness after this water hit you? I assume that the cigarette lighter went out.
Oh yeah, that was just temporary, just a little bit of light we had.
So 3 men were swept away.
Yeah, they didn't come back. So we felt around, and then it was Centers, the other petty officer. We didn't know where we were see, we thought we were 2 decks up. But we'd went up a deck, and then the ship turned over, and we'd went up another deck, so we're right back where we started.
So you were disoriented, so you retraced, in effect, your path.
Well, we went up twice, but the ship went over in the meantime, so we're right back to where we were.
Did you know that at the time?
No, we didn't know at all. And
how long did it take before you realized?
You have no idea. In fact, when I got out, I thought it was still Sunday. You just lose all sense of time. And anyway, after we calmed down, which, how long, I don't know, hour maybe or whatever, I saw something shining on the bulkhead over there. Now, I made my way over there, and it was a phone on the bulkhead. The phone's upside down. It had a little luminous dial, you know, like your watch. And then we realized that we were upside down and where we were. And knowing where we were and underwater, we just were resigned to the fact we thought the air would go bad, and that would be that.
Is this compartment you're in the size of an average room in a house?
Yes, this was one of the bigger compartments. They had 2 big air compressors in, and it was about half full of water.
So the water's coming up to where on you?
Well, the ship wasn't actually upside down. It was on a little angle, so you had a kind of a corner where we could hover on that corner and be out of water, but of course you're all wet and cold and damp. And
it's still pitch black except for the illuminated dial on the phone.
And I mean black is black, you know, no light whatsoever down there.
Could you hear anything on the outside?
Yeah, we could hear the Maryland was inboard, and they'd had these new 1.1 guns, you know, pom, 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 pom. We could hear them firing, and that was evidently the second wave that came over. And we knew we were sunk, but we didn't know what was going on, really.
What did you do next?
You couldn't do anything. There was nothing to do. We didn't even think to tap. We knew where we were, and we just thought the air will go bad, we'll go to sleep, and that's it. We didn't really talk too much. You have a lot of thoughts, and like I say, you don't know, you have no idea of time. Of course, you prayed a lot. That's all there was to do. You can't go through a steel bulkhead.
Did you know this other man very well?
I knew him fairly well because we were both second-class petty officers. We went in about the same time. Early Tuesday morning or late Monday night, we heard some tapping. So then it gave us new life. Then we didn't have anything to tap with. So we had to scrounge around, and I found a little open-end wrench. Neither one of us knew the code because we weren't signalmen.
Could you tap directly on the hull, or are you in a compartment?
Oh, we're in 2 or 3 compartments. See, the battleship has a double bottom, and then they have voids, which they counterflood, and then they have storeroom, and then you have the heart of the ship.
So are you saying you were pounding on one of the hulls?
We're pounding on one of the bulkheads, and echoes out throughout the... You'd tap twice, you know, boom, boom, and then they'd answer boom, boom, because we, like I say, neither one of us knew the code.
So how long did that go on?
Who knows? Like I say, you just lose all idea of the time. It took them about an hour, talking to them later, to work their way down through the double bottoms. See, they couldn't just cut wildly in there. You had ammunition, you had fuel oil, and everything else. In fact, they cut into a compartment that was cork lined. They were using torches, and by the time they got it cut open, the two guys had suffocated that were in there. So they used an air hammer. It took them about an hour to cut a hole big enough for a man to get out through the plate.
So this tapping went on for about an hour, and then finally what happened?
They drilled a hole first. They have these tapered plugs, so they can just plug the hole up, a test hole. And we were under quite a bit of water pressure. You know, you could hear the air going out. And that shot of light came down through, you know, just like a...
It was above you.
Yeah, right above us then. And I watched this water coming up, and I watched that hole.
The water was rising at this point?
Yeah, see, we were under quite a bit of air pressure.
Oh, so it was, in effect, sucking the water up.
Well, it was letting the water come up as the air pressure would go over.
Did it reach where you were standing?
Oh, yeah, over our necks.
So there you are in water up to your neck, but you have this shaft of light coming down?
Yes, the water's running out. Like I say, the hull wasn't right flat. It was on an angle like that, and it was leaking out below, and we were in the high corner. And that the rescue team left because they were afraid of getting flooded, and that was the worst feeling, because you're that close, and then...
Could you hear their voices?
Oh yeah, you couldn't really understand them because there was quite a hissing sound of the air going out. But they left, you know.
Because of fear for their own safety?
Unbeknown to us, they were going to come back on a little different route. And that's when we really felt the worst. Because, I mean, you're that close to getting out, and then you see them leave.
You thought all was lost. Your hopes were built up and then dashed.
In fact, this Centers tried to drown himself, and I pulled him back up, and I says, we're not quite ready yet.
You mean when the rescue party left
yeah.
he tried to kill himself?
He was going to drown himself because you were to that point.
What did you say to him?
I grabbed him and pulled him up. I said, wait a minute, we're not through yet. And then you could hear him tapping again. They came back in on a little different direction.
By this time it's Tuesday?
Yeah, this is Tuesday morning. Finally, when we came out, Centers left. He hadn't had enough, and I sat there and talked to the rescue crew. One of the fellows was a first-class shipfitter, William Stanley Thomas, and he really organized the rescue mission. He was going by the Oklahoma Sunday afternoon. He heard some tapping.
But it wasn't your tapping?
Oh, no, it wasn't us. See, there was about 500 other people trapped in there at different compartments and stages of the game.
And they're working on a lot of them simultaneously?
No, nobody's working on anything. He goes over to the sub base and gets some of our officers and says, I think we can get some of our men out. And of course, if it hadn't been such a disaster, you know, they could have got a lot of people out, but they weren't. You know, they had other things to worry about, one ship with a few hundred men. And
when your rescuers finally broke through to you, describe that scene.
Well, it was a sickening scene when I came out and saw all the fleet on the bottom. The Arizona smoldering and all the battleships sitting on the bottom. We knew we were sunk. We had no idea that they'd sunk the whole fleet.